All right, we are live. Thank you for all of you tuning in right now to WaterCooler Wednesday with my special guest, Casey Spiegel. If you're here watching us live, let us know. Put it in the chat. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or at least we should be. So knowing that you're out there really adds a new dimension to this. It creates conversation. So we want to hear from you. So give us a quick hi, shout out, etc. And throughout the interview, please add. We want to hear your voice. So let us know your thoughts. Ask your questions. So that you don't just have to hear Casey and I the entire time. We can make this a full conversation. And if you're watching the replay, same thing. We will monitor these. So if you're watching this a couple days after, a couple weeks after, a couple months after, feel free to comment and ask questions, and we will get back to you. All right. So um, today is a really cool conversation that's been a long time coming. Casey and I have been in each other's orbits. We've had the opportunity of working with each other in the past, but it's like um, I'll see him and like online and see all the cool things he's doing and but never really like connect. It's not very often that we get to connect. And so, hey, how's it going, Sean? Thanks for saying hi. Um, and so, um, Today is a cool opportunity for us to connect on a very deep level because we're going to be talking about Casey's story. And I don't know, Casey is an open book, but if anything is a little too deep, you just let us know. I've got tissues here. I don't know how to give them to you, but we're going to talk with Casey about his experience going from entrepreneurship to employee to what he's really living out is intrapreneurship, and we're going to talk about all of this. But I want you as the viewer to think about this in terms of your life and how integrated your identity is tied to your work experiences, whether you're an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur or a frontline employee, even. So, without further ado, let me introduce you a little bit to Casey. I'll give you his introduction and then probably add on to it. But this is Casey, the cell phone guru. He is a wireless technology concierge with over 20 years of hands on experience helping businesses make smarter mobile decisions. From managing corporate owned wireless fleets to navigating carrier contracts and device life cycles, Casey cuts through carrier noise with a vendor neutral, real world perspective. He's the steady hand companies trust when wireless stops being simple and starts affecting the business. So I'm a bit of a Luddite, so I really don't understand most of what I just said. But here's the thing. I've worked with Casey before when my cell phone went down and stuff, and I know that no job description has ever limited him. He's always gone above and beyond. So whatever it is that you do technically, I know that you are always there for your clients. But we're gonna get into that. So welcome, Casey. Welcome to the water cooler.
David, it is so incredibly amazing to be here. You mentioned about my journey in business. You have inspired me with your journey, and it's been a long time coming that I've had an opportunity to come on here, speak to my story, and have a lot of fun doing it.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It is mutual. All right. So, you know that in order to get to the interview in Water Cooler Wednesday, you've got to go through the gauntlet of the 6 in 60. Now, this is going to be 6 rapid fire questions, or as rapid fire as I can make them. And you're going to have a grand total of 60 seconds to uh, answer them all cumulatively. Okay. And if you
Love it.
fail, then interview ends and we log off. Sounds
See ya.
good? All right. So, first question. Best career advice you've ever received in 5 words or less?
Be you.
Ooh, entrepreneur or employee? Which is harder?
Entrepreneur, without a doubt.
What's one trait every entrepreneur needs that nobody really talks about?
Grit.
Mm. What's one book, podcast, or resource that significantly influenced your thinking lately?
Big Zig Ziglar fan. He has always inspired me.
Mm. Outside of work, what is one thing you are most passionate about?
Making steak.
Oh, nice. Finish this sentence. The future of work is
Really exciting if you want it to be.
awesome. Hey, you passed. That was great. And as you probably know, not many people do. Not many people get past the 6 and 60. So that was really impressive. So, all right. So, Casey, that was awesome. First of all, I didn't know you were like a steak guy. What's the secret?
Oh, the secret is in the prep, just like everything else is in life. So, if you're just going to go in with a bunch of hodgepodge tools and not really have a process to it, your steak is going to come out that way. So, you want to make sure you're selecting the right steak to match the right tools that you have and time. So, some steaks can cook very quickly, some you want to take a little bit of time, you want to do some prep to it, and it's very important to make these choices with a lot of thought because you only get to enjoy that steak for a few minutes and you really want it to be unbelievably good.
Nice. Now I'm hungry. All right. So you had the title of this conversation is "Who Am I Now?"
Yeah,
So I think that I really want to turn it over to you and ask you, who are you? Who is Casey Spiegel? For those of us that are watching that really are less familiar with you,
for sure.
I gave that technical sort of
Yeah.
bio, but really, who are you on a deeper level?
Well, honestly, David, I gave you that really complicated biography or biography is because I want you to work for it here, David. Sometimes you got to come on here and you get it really easy. I need you to work for it. But
Fair.
who Casey Spiegel is the cell phone guru. Whether that be in the consumer space or the business to business space, I am your friend to help guide you in making a cell phone decision. My career started working more closely with retailers and customers inside of stores. And in 2021, when I sold and moved out of my business, I took my talents and I moved into the space of helping businesses. And so, what I do on a day to day level is have conversations with businesses or folks who manage devices for businesses. And what I mean by a device is a cell phone, a tablet, or a hotspot. And I find ways to be able to save them money and make managing those devices much easier. This is a low hanging fruit in a technology tech stack of a business, but it certainly is critical to the businesses that do have them. And it comes with some complexity. And what I'm doing is solving those problems for clients and partners who are working with these folks to help solve their problems to make it just a little bit easier. So hopefully that gave you a little bit better understanding of what I do.
It did. I love that because and low hanging fruit. I don't know. I know that I've got 5 kids, 3 of them teenagers, and our cell phone budget is a enormous piece of our monthly household budget. So it's not small potatoes. I can imagine for an organization. Um, so Okay, so for the let's take this back. The When I first knew of you, you were like outside of clubs, you were bouncing, you were everybody in Baltimore in that sort of, young adult phase knew you. That's how we got into clubs and stuff. So,
Yep.
like, but everybody in Baltimore, on that scene seemed to know you. And then as people do, we grew up, and then you took on this wireless business, Forever Wireless, and things like that,
Mhm.
right? But I never really knew Casey outside of the things that you were doing. And I know that a lot of our viewers are entrepreneurs or even just leaders within their own corporate businesses.
Mhm.
And I I think that so many of us struggle to answer this question. So you said you wanted me to struggle a little bit. I'm going to ask you to struggle a little bit
Do it.
and tell us where did back then, and then we'll get into the modern day, but where did Casey the individual end and your business begin? Eh, Um, versus like was that able were you able to identify, did you have boundaries, did was there any differentiation between Casey Spiegel and Forever Wireless?
It wasn't, there was a separation when I first started. And as I became more immersed in managing a retail wireless store in Baltimore City, I recognized that it wasn't the product I was selling, it was me selling it. And so I took a very personal approach with all the clients, and therefore it made me take a personal approach with everyone in my network. So I leveraged the enjoyment I had going out to clubs, listening to great music, and making new friends. And it was a natural kind of thing that was brought up in conversation, and it was a part of me. And so I would say probably about 2 to 3 years into my 15-year tenure in Forever Wireless, that's when it really started to become a part of me. And it jokingly came up. The Casey, the cell phone guru, was a nickname that I came up with, and it really stuck with me. And even though I sold my business and I'm in wireless now in a different capacity, I have actually brought that brand with me because it has helped me connect with people in such a way that I would never want to forget about.
Yeah, and so you're you moved from um that life to this life. You
Yep.
I think you were year 15, around 15 years in,
Yep.
right? You just said, and 8 locations, is that right?
So at my largest, I had 10. I had a wonderful partner in the business, and it was a great business for a long time until it wasn't. And some of the challenges were things that were beyond my control. Some of the challenges were things that were in my control, and I just wasn't effectively able to make those changes. And it came a time when I got married, and then I got smart and realized this wasn't how I wanted to spend my career because I wasn't the best version of myself. And at the time, my wife was starting her business. I took the step forward, I call it, and moved on from Forever Wireless. Sold my stores, closed whatever I couldn't sell, and I went on a really tough 6 months to a year trying to figuring out who Casey was.
It sounds a lot like almost a midlife crisis, or maybe exactly a midlife crisis. What does that separation feel like? And I know that going into that separation, there were other personal health
Yeah.
challenges and things like that. How did that impact you in terms of your sense of identity? Really at its core, separating yourself from this business, and also kind of making this decision, being a supporting player for your wife at the time. And
Yeah.
there's so many different factors that I imagine, especially somebody, from, with the sales background and the entrepreneurship background and whatever, like, not calling you a narcissist, but there is ego involved in that
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
life. How did you manage that?
So you brought up something that was probably one of the toughest things that I went through in my life personally. In 2018, I've been struggling with an autoimmune disorder that caused me a lot of inflammation, arthritis, and things no 30 or 25-year-old was used to. But I became used to it, and I got into a situation where I had a flare up and I wasn't able to walk for 1 year. And at that time, my day was spent going in between stores, standing, and I had to completely reimagine my work life. And at that time, things were actually going really well for my business. I had just opened another store. I had technicians doing great work. Relationships were expanding, but I had to take steps back. And I had met my wife about 6 months before this situation in my life, and I'm now married to her, and we have a young son together. But she swooped in, helped me get through it, pushed me in a wheelchair. I ended up getting back on my feet and recognizing some things about my career, and there was an ego to it. But my father in law, who I very much admire and who is a great mentor to me, his name is Steve Ruckovitz. He told me that, when you're getting out of a business or you're selling it or you're closing it, you go through like a mourning period because it's almost like you're completely changing the person that you were, this thing that you were so attached to, you lived and breathed. There was a lot of emotion around it, but I thankfully, was able to kind of take a reset. And the first thing I did was go to my network and talk to people, my close friends, my not so close friends, shared with them what I was doing, came up with some ideas, almost started a business. But then I realized that, was I trying to start a business for an ego reason? Like that was what I was supposed to do because I owned a business before? Or was it really in my best interest? And it wasn't. And that's why I made the decision to try to find a position and a job where I could be somewhat of an entrepreneur. And I have certainly found that place at my current home at OpDecision.
I want to get right back to that, but first I want to ask you about this because your father-in-law, I mean, it seems like really intuitive and smart advice, labeling this as a time for mourning,
Yeah.
because I think that that's something that we regularly skip over. Mourning of any kind. So many of us, um, we don't like those unpleasant feelings. We don't want to linger. We want to move on real quick. And so, whether in organizations, when there's a big change occurring, we don't allow our employees to mourn. In life, even when people pass, they're very close to us. A lot of us will throw ourselves into work and all of those things. I love within the Jewish tradition, we've got 7 days of mourning, followed by 30 days of some level of mourning, followed by a year of another level of mourning. And it's a custom to force yourself into taking time to reflect and not move on so quickly. Did you take that time on purpose or accidentally? And what did that period of mourning look like? Because I think it's extremely, like, it is literal mourning that's necessary. What did that look like for you?
Well, let me keep it real with you, David, because I promised I'd be that way with
Yeah.
you when you asked me to do this. No one sent me a fish platter. And in the tradition of Judaism, when there is a mourning, you come together with family and friends, and there's usually some smoked fish, food to make you feel better. No one sent me that, and it was a running joke that me and my father-in-law and some other friends had. But what I did is I looked at the opportunity to um, use it as a reset in my mind, and also try to sharpen and do some exploration of things that perhaps I wouldn't do previously because I didn't have the time. As an entrepreneur, you're running around pulling in a lot of different directions. You don't have the time to focus on investing in yourself and enhancing skill sets, and going to lunch with friends who you normally wouldn't. It got old, after a few months. Not going to lie, but it was great, and it did allow me to be comfortable making that next step. Which I'm sitting here saying, like, that's the end. We got to talk about how hard it was going into being an employee and the amount of challenges that I had with that initially, because that's the real story that a lot of people don't discuss.
Yeah, so let's go there. You're a boss, right? And you are in multiple ways. You're a boss, and an entire life of being an entrepreneur. Um, and now you work for the man. You're now
Yep.
employed. Um, what was that like for you entering that? And what was, first of all, from your perspective, what was that like? What were the new things that you had to learn or get used to or get comfortable with? Um, what was that tension like?
Not everybody wants to hear from me. And as a boss, it's, your role to guide and be a leader and fix things and support. And I'm the new guy coming into an organization that there are a lot of people there. They're not interested in any of my leadership. They're not interested in any of the, skill set of management that I have. So I essentially had to take my tool chest and take out a bunch of things that I was really good at and put those aside and say, okay, we're not using these right now. Even though I love using them, they make me be some of the best version of myself. This isn't what this is about. And that was hard. It's still hard, but after a few months, I would say after about a year of kind of figuring out what my day to day and what my role is like, and also having really supportive leadership to provide me some autonomy in a way so that I could still feel like I was using some of those tools that I had to leave behind. Um, but that was definitely the more challenging piece that nobody can really prepare you for, because it's not the most common thing where an entrepreneur and a business owner goes back into the workforce and is successful or finds a way to have a successful mindset about it.
Yeah, and I can imagine for your employer, how cool is it to have somebody who's a self-starter, who gets the high stakes of it, who
Yeah,
brings in this amazing skill set, but also stay in your lane. How did they how did they adjust to you? How did they help you adjust to your role with them? Was there tension there? Was there support there? Was there conflict there? What did that look like?
I would say it was more of a challenge internally for myself than them, because I pride myself on being a very self-aware and being able to read people and read situations. So I'm also, it's just my personality is I want to be a pleaser. And so making sure to make somebody feel comfortable with you, you want to go about things in a certain way. So a lot of it was just me, the internalizing of things that I had to do to say, like, okay, this is going completely sideways. It's not my job to solve the problem. It is my job to provide awareness to my leader and my manager to fix it. And I'm just staying here. And by no means was leadership of my organization inaccessible or anything like that. I just like had this, you know, um, thought that I had to just be somebody that I wasn't. And I wasn't being myself at first. I was just really uncomfortable. And it wasn't anything that they were doing. I just felt so awkward and I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. And it was a lot of emotion.
I think that's in a lot of ways it's a universal experience that so many people have where you leave a company, you leave a job, you leave an organization, and you are doing well there. Everybody knows your name, everybody knows your role, you have a level of authority, you have a level of autonomy. And then you come into a new organization, a new role, and now you've got like it's almost like, don't you know who I am? Inside, because suddenly, yeah, we know who you are. You're the new guy. Stay in your lane.
Yep.
And you're not an expert within this organization, and you have to
Yep.
figure out the politics here and give it time for them to figure out who you are and for you to figure out their systems. We see leaders all the time failing as they come into an organization and start trying to change everything and having a huge impact before they learn, sit back and learn. But there's so much of that discomfort because you're a doer. That's how you got there. And
Yep.
you're used to having this impact. And so you had to scale back at first. And I'm hearing how uncomfortable that was for you. But it sounds like, again, your super wise father in law comes in and explains to you the concept of an intrapreneur. Talk to us about that. How did you use this, because you didn't just become a bureaucrat, because you couldn't. I don't think you could survive doing that.
No, no, I
You became an
wouldn't.
entrepreneur. What is that? What does that mean to you, and how did that come to be?
So Steve, or Stevie, as I like to call him, we started talking about entrepreneurship months before we even figured out. Like I even figured out I was going back into the employee job world. Like as I was starting to close down the business, he helped me do that and strategize around it and take the best pieces I could from it, and that would carry me into wherever I was going next. And so when that discussion, started to happen and that word was introduced to me because I wasn't familiar with it, it made me think like, okay, like this is exciting. Like I could, be still like using all of these skills that I have, but not having to worry about figuring out payroll and benefits plans and things that like I didn't enjoy doing, but I that came with the role. And so again, my colleague and the founder of OpDecision, his name is Drew Poland. We worked very closely together, and in a lot of ways, he saw the ability that I had, but I mean, I was hired to do a job, and that job was to bring in business. So I wasn't there to try to fix operational deficiencies or fix, marketing or all these other things that like I know I could make better and help, but I also know that I'm incredible at developing relationships and doing business, and that's where my focus needed to be solely was on that. And so he listened a lot. And I think that's what helped me the most in feeling comfortable to put together time and effort into figuring out ways to enhance our business and our sales process. And so he was a one man show doing all of it by himself. He had his way of doing it. And, I was brought in and I kind of had to figure out my own way. And that's not necessarily, something that they could have planned for or, that they could have done differently. I think that's what helped me get and fuel my entrepreneur fire to go out there and change up marketing a little bit, work on my message about how I'm speaking about what I do to folks, and just sharpening these skills around my new role, which was develop business. And I knew I could do it. And, it just took some time and a lot of energy and listening from others and learning to be able to get to a place where I feel like I'm actually purposeful in what I'm doing, because I didn't feel that way at first because I wasn't bringing in deals because I didn't know how to do that. It wasn't something that I was, familiar with.
Yeah, and I think it takes two. It takes the individual who's the employee as well as the employer or the leader, to be able to manage that entrepreneurial spirit
Yeah.
and encourage it and motivate it. I have a short list of people that I'm always thinking of who are like top employees. Like I would hire them in a second. But when people come to me and they're looking to hire people, most of the time I don't name them because they will fail miserably in a in an organization or on a team that won't give them the space they need and help. help them thrive because they're more difficult because they actually think for themselves and they actually are entrepreneurial and they come up with their own ideas and their employers often leaders often will stand in their own way by trying to put people in boxes and limit them in ways that really hold them back and then therefore hold the business back. And sometimes it's based on their own egos that they don't want to let go of control, and other times it's just fear, like, no, that's not the way we do this. So if you're speaking to those leaders, that want a Casey Spiegel on their team or don't know yet that they want a Casey Spiegel type entrepreneur on their team, what advice would you give to them?
I would say treat initial conversations at, be very focused around discovery. You have to learn the way that people do things and appreciate their strengths and weaknesses. And although we make decisions about people very quickly in a matter of seconds, those always aren't the truth telling, um, you know, assessment that we need to make the right decision. It's just judgments that we have in our mind. And so listening and asking questions, I think, will help anyone make a better decision about a really serious thing, and that's a business relationship, and who to invest in and who to be invested by, because I think that's also a very critical thing. I always reminded the folks that I would be doing interviews with is I want you to treat this as you're interviewing me as well, because you need to make sure to know that you're going to be comfortable working here. It'll eliminate so much time and energy if you just ask me, like, hey, do you do this, or hey, do you do that, and for us to get through some of those things and really work together to formulate something meaningful that's going to make being here and in this relationship purposeful in a way that will make you want to come to work every morning and do something.
And and that brings us to the flip side of this, right? So that's for the leader, but you also mentioned, interview me, right? You want
Yeah.
your employees to interview you, to help discover, make sure that you are the right fit for this organization, that they're the right fit for you as well, that they're going to support your growth, autonomy, creativity, entrepreneurship. But what else would you say when we look around and we see so many employees that could be really good employees maybe, but if somebody is itching to take it to the next level, they want to be an entrepreneur, they want to have more impact. How can they do that? What does that look like? How do they start taking chances and where do you even start?
For me, I think the most helpful thing is just mapping it out in outlines, and then taking that and sharing it with either a colleague or leadership and say, I just was had this mind map. I brain dumped something here, and what do you think about it? And because at that point, it's not something that is threatening to anybody, whereas that they would feel like you're trying to take control, but more so like, is my mind in the right direction? And a good leader is going to see that and say, they're thinking in a very different way and looking through a perspective very differently. I want to be able to invest more in this person to try to help develop some things. And I actually want to include them when I'm asked and I need to figure something out. I want to get their opinion. So for me, how I developed my entrepreneurial credibility was my boss, or I like to call my colleague, started asking me questions about things, and he really liked some of the ideas, and some of the stuff he didn't. But from there, he started to learn a lot about how I was thinking, and from there, he started to task me with some more strategic development things and things like that. But it wasn't until there was this established understanding that like I'm not just like here. Okay, this isn't, even though this is my job and I'm staying in my lane, I'm thinking here, I'm thinking there, I'm thinking a little bit over here. And I presented it in a way as if that wasn't, this is what we should do, but like, here's what I'm thinking about.
I like that. So really what I'm hearing is come from a space of, for the leader and the employee, come from a space of curiosity and
Yeah.
collaboration,
Hmm.
not just trying to implement your stuff or shut things down or get things started. I really appreciate that. Now, when you look back at your life as an entrepreneur and you look at your career now as an employee, um, what so with my research on passion, I look a lot at, passion can be, it feels good, and it's part of your identity, and it's meaningful, but it could be healthy and it could be less healthy.
Hmm.
um which version of Casey, looking back objectively, standing back, do you feel is healthier?
Without a doubt, where I'm at right now, not even a question. Um, and the business that I was in previously that I owned was really, really hard. And you had to commit a lot to get to a place that you wanted to feel comfortable and would be proud of what you put together. The ability that I have to spend with my family, the fact that I don't have to be in the streets so much as I had used to been before traveling, and the conversations that help energize me and help me grow make me such a better version of myself now. And perhaps it was the type of business that I was in, which was much harder, but I gave up a lot, but I don't feel like anything that I gave up matters now because I have so many other things that mean so much more to me that now than they ever did before.
Yeah, I mean, over those years, you got married, you became a father. So I imagine those things really sort of fill in that gap for a sense of meaning and purpose, and that deep fulfillment. But you also seem to scratch that itch in other ways when it comes up.
Oh yeah.
Can you talk to that?
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll give you an example. My wife would always tell me like, "Oh, the alarm's going off at this store. Like, you got to wake up and deal with it. It's 2 in the morning. It's drama. It's then you can't sleep. It's awful. It sucks, and it's uncomfortable. I had stores broken into. We had one of our locations damaged in the riots in the mid 2000 in 2016. So like awful, annoying things, right? And like so, the fact that none of that happens anymore is incredible. But I also like that doesn't mean I don't want to pay attention to things after hours. And so last night I was in a conversation with somebody at 11 o'clock at night on Teams chat. Like, I don't need to do that, but this guy and I were vibing. Like, we're going to be doing some business together. He's a new advisor selling technology. I am going to help him take advantage of his current client base. And like, we were just both wireless folks, and it was a great way to do it. Um, that to me gives me that energy and support to fill my cup in a way that still keeps my mind going, that I felt like I didn't have when I first came into my new role. And on the flip side of that, I also just really love helping small businesses with ideas whenever I can, and share with friends that manage and operate small businesses how to effectively change their trajectory or help them exit from just a friend perspective to help them recognize like how good it can be over here.
I love that. So building the relationships, the mentorship that you surely got in your role. I saw you with your employees back in your Forever Wireless days. That
Yeah.
it was a true love and for that for them and the ability to mentor. But you're still um, finding those situations or creating those opportunities outside of your immediate work. Another thing that I've seen that I was so impressed with was it seemed like the most random thing ever, but you posted on social media that you were gonna raise some funds and go donate food to a local school. Can you talk about that? Where did that idea come from, and how did that scratch your entrepreneurial itch, if it did?
So I like to be random. And so a random person posted in a community Facebook group that she was trying to get lunches for the teachers and faculty at a local public school. And I don't know this person. We were connected to people because obviously that's how it is on social media. Um, and I said, you know what? How many people? I messaged her. I was like, maybe I can help. It's December, it's holiday. What a cool thing to do. It'd be really nice. I want to teach my son that we have to give back. And there are ways to do it, not just from yourself and with money. There are ways that you can organize and be a conduit to great things and not just have to fund those great things. So, of course, I have amazing friends. I just started a GoFundMe. I figured out a budget for what lunch was. Shout out to my friend Tony at THB Bagels, who helped get me some swag and a little bit of a discount. I actually raised more money than what I needed for lunch. And so 2 days ago, I dropped off a bunch of supplies that they had requested with that extra money. It was random, it was fun, and I hope to do it next year and also continue to be fun and random.
How cool is that? I mean, I've been thinking a lot recently with AI and the talk about what happens if the jobs go away and what does life look like, and I think that on a microcosm you've kind of explored that in terms of the depth of this overarching all-encompassing entrepreneurial life, where you have had these gaps and you figured out ways to fill them in non-work,
Mhm.
milieux. As you know, I own my ice cream shop while, parenting uh, two of my kids really, but three were around. The third one was around in the very end, and I've jokingly said to my kids, but I'm very serious actually, that my youngest two kids, of the five that I have, thank God, but like my youngest two kids are going to get up at my funeral and they're going to eulogize me about being an amazing dad, and my oldest three are going to be like, who the hell are they talking about? Because the sad reality is that entrepreneurial life sometimes is
Yeah.
all encompassing, and I wasn't there for so much of it with my oldest kids, but getting more of a balance with the type of work that I do now, it's been not just more possible, but a priority. And I can imagine having your son now on this side of things makes a big difference. But what does it mean to you to be a father, knowing that you came from that entrepreneurial life and what that may have looked like differently for you back then?
I would have hated it. I would have so much guilt. And growing up, my parents were immigrants to this country, and my dad worked 6 days a week, and my mom worked 6 days a week. And on Saturdays, I had to go with split time with my mom. She's a manicurist. I would go to the salon, and then my dad was managing car dealership, so I would go there, and great memories. But like that's not like now. I am activities with my kid all weekend, planning it, and being a part of it, being present. There would be no way I could be present in my child's life nearly as much. And for me, that is something I was always very much looking forward to and excited about. And something that is exciting in our family today is my wife just took over her role at her company as CEO that she founded. And her ability to find balance as a C-level executive is a challenge. And so we knew going into our decision of creating a family that there were going to have to be some sacrifices, and there were going to be decisions made that were really hard. But we've been able to find a way to make it work. And the biggest thing we try to do is be present.
Mhm. Love it. Love it. And now it's more of that is falling on you. And that team sort of thing where one, my wife always tells me about these TikTok videos she sees, and they guide our life and parenting and marriage. But she said, everybody can't be 100% all the time, and so
Yeah,
we figure I'm at 80, if I'm at 20, you got to be at 80, and vice versa. It sounds like you all have really worked out that sort of balance as a team.
100%. And I'm also very much enjoy this blessing of having a child and being in a situation where I don't have to be like my parents and work crazy hours and not be a part of the things in life for my child that I so much wish that my parents could have been there for, but they couldn't. And now at this juncture, there isn't that extracurricular stuff so much. In the evening times, it's just him playing his guitar to ABC 46 times in a night, and just enjoying that, and not having to worry about this or that or whatever. So I carve out in the evening times a break time. And sure, I jump on after he goes to bed just to tie up some loose ends, get ready for the next day. I want to be I want to be ahead of everybody else as much as I can be, but I don't have to do that now. I don't have to do it, and it disrupts my ability to be the best at the job that I love the most, and that's being a parent.
Mm, love it. So, okay, I want to circle back to one of the things that you had brought up when we talked before the interview, and that is, I think something that is, a really important skill set, and maybe a differentiator between that entrepreneurial mindset
Mhm.
and that of a lot of others. Um, you said that you have this mantra, I believe, that failure is part of success,
Yes.
and that I think that is extremely entrepreneurial in nature. How much has that changed or not changed as an entrepreneur, and what happens when you're working with people who are more risk averse than you are?
I am so much more comfortable with failing now than before because I've done it so much that I realize it's not the end, it's just a means to an end. And I didn't realize that. So if I lost a customer in the retail business, they walked out of my store and didn't buy a phone, and then I saw them down the road buying a phone, to me, like that was a failure. Like I screwed up. Like that isn't making me feel good. And so that was my initial feelings. And then I'd see that person down the street, and I'd just say, "Hey, what's up? How you doing?" Just be polite and build the relationship. Well, then they came to me and bought a case, and then in 2 years they came and bought the phone, and then at tax time they came and bought the other things. And so understanding and appreciating the fact that you have to invest in relationships and that they take some time to give you something purposeful, um, you know thinking that everything was has to be a win in order for it to be a win, and that's just not the case. So again, going back to some conversations my father-in-law we used to have, in particularly around process in sales. So I want to sell something, but there's like maybe 15 things that have to happen before I sell that thing. So appreciating and being mindful of the mini wins within that sale helped change my mindset to, okay, if I don't, get the end sale, then I'm, completely a failure. And that's not the case. And so if you are focusing on things from a more micro level as much as you can during conversations and trying to figure out paths to success to sell something or support something, know that you're going to hit a wall. And so the people that are able to find ways around the wall, even though it feels like there's no way, those are the ones who are eventually going to continue to build success. So I looked at failure as a part of success and not as an end.
Now,
Sorry to get real deep on you here, David,
I
but
love
I'm a
it.
philosophical. That was my major in school, and I analyze things to a little bit of a different degree. Sometimes they're perhaps a little bit confusing to the standard folk, but please, hopefully that made you kind of understand that there is no way to avoid failure,
Yeah.
and it is a part of success. And if you don't recognize that, you're only going to feel failure, and you're not going to look at failure as a step to success.
I love it. And we know this within the research on talent development and things like that. You want to set people up. You want to make this space safe space for them to fail because that's where the learning occurs. And I think that that's really really valuable. And I love that you've seen that in throughout your life, as difficult as it can be sometimes. Now, so I'm going to ask you to, um, give us one more deep answer here, maybe. But
Let's do it.
when you were at Forever Wireless, Casey, to some degree to yourself, I would think, and to many others, Casey was Forever Wireless,
Yeah.
right? Um, then when that died, you were mourning part of your own sense of self, your own identity. Um, in my research on passion decline, what
Hmm.
happens when people just fall out of love with their work, people that are fully passionate about their work, and then something happens and they just fall out of love with work. Um, I saw how fragile, the people that I interviewed were throughout that time. And one person said that one of the lessons they learned was that their identity had been so tied into the specific organization and role and title instead of the broader skill set that they brought everywhere. Um, if you were to go back and talk to Casey Spiegel, Forever Wireless, would you encourage yourself to think about who you are in some sort of different lens, or was that the right lens for that time? In other words, is there, through the mourning process and this huge change and shift in your life, in more ways than just selling off Forever Wireless, but also as a husband and a father and all these other things, is there a red thread that now better defines who is Casey Spiegel that isn't just completely interconnected with Forever Wireless or wherever you may be working at the moment or whatever role you may be playing at the moment?
I if I had advice to give myself back then that would help me go through all of that, it would have been to tell myself how amazing I actually am, and that this thing that I've been doing for so long wasn't a coincidence that I was really good at. And so I would just need to take the skills, the experience, the losses, the failures, and put them in a big white van with all my other tools, and take off the branding of Forever Wireless and put up the new branding. And maybe I'm working for a company, maybe it's my own company, but none of those tools and things were had to be left behind. They just had to be repurposed. And no one could prepare me for that other than just living it and talking to people around me who wanted to help me. I was very embarrassed. I was very sad, um, but there wasn't a reason. I'm not saying there wasn't a reason. That wasn't, shouldn't have been the only thing or emotion that was there, but that was the one that was driving my mind. And so when that shifted, and people were talking to me and telling me like, okay, like, yeah, what's the next thing, like, I'm so excited for you, and I'm sitting here like excited, like, I don't know what I'm doing, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea. And so then starting to piece it together, and just reminding myself like, I can take that same hammer and build that other house over there. Just because I was only doing this house for so long and that's all I knew, I just need to learn the angle of the hammer, learn the new technique. And but I didn't think that that was going to be something that I could do and feel good about it. And over 3 years, or 4 years rather, I definitely feel good about it.
Well, I think, to me, from the outside looking in, cell phones have never had anything to do with who Casey Spiegel is. I've seen you inside your organization back in Forever Wireless. I've seen that it was always about the people, about the
Yep.
customers, about the employees, about the partners. It was always about all those things. And we, unfortunately, are not as close as I would have loved to be. I've never met your parents, your father-in-law, your wife, your son, but I feel like I know a whole lot about them all because they are so central to who you are, and you talk about them so often. And you are the person who goes and just randomly starts this drive for a local school where, by the way, your kid doesn't attend.
Doesn't
And
attend.
so I think that, to me, objectively sitting from the outside, that is Casey Spiegel. And that is really who you are. And it doesn't matter whether you're working with cell phones or I don't know, elephants and zebras. I don't know, be a zookeeper. But it doesn't matter because that's who you are. And so I love your story because it is a story that is painful, uncomfortable, one of mourning and growth and failure and rebuilding and all of those things. And that, at the core of it, it's all so essentially human and so common to some degree, as most people don't go from 15 years with a business to then working internally for someone else. But people do lose their jobs, switch their jobs, um, leave relationships, have other things that really change fundamentally their understanding of their own self, their health. You've had so many of these things, over the past 5, 10 years, and your resilience is just it's exactly why I wanted you to come on here and share your story, because I think it is universal, real, and something that's tangible, but also something that's aspirational for other people to see, that how you've not just survived, but that you've thrived through this, even though I know for you on the inside, it didn't feel like thriving every step of the way.
For sure.
So,
And it's great to be here with you, David. I've been waiting for this opportunity, but it's also been incredible to watch this webinar grow, and it's awesome to be a part of it.
well, thank you. And so, what is next for you? I know we've got that QR code above your head. That'll send people right to your LinkedIn. As we've been saying throughout this thing, Casey's all about relationships. So, I even if you don't own a cell phone. Well, who doesn't own a cell phone? But even if that's the case, connect with Casey. He's always been the connector, the person who really cares for people and connects people, he's just somebody really, really important to have in your network. So, what's next for you?
What's next for me is to continue the blessing that I have of being able to connect people in so many different ways. Right now, I'm in technology and mobility. I love to refer people around to many different other aspects in business. And I would love for you all to follow my journey on LinkedIn and the randomness that comes with it. But just come on and enjoy the ride. I promise you, you'll take something away from it positively.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Casey. This has been an absolute pleasure. Long time coming. And thank you to all of you who logged in, even though you weren't very talkative, but we appreciate you logging in. And for any of you who are watching the replay, thank you as well. We're here just about every other Wednesday around noon. Sometimes those get shifted, but we'd love for you to tune in to future Water Cooler Wednesdays. Thank you so much, Casey, and thanks to all of you.